Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to learn about how to create the variables and the different norms to create the variable names. First of all, let's see what's the purpose of creating the variable. Let's say you have different values like text values, numeric values, or Boolean values like true and false values, or some other values in different data types. These values you want to store somewhere, then you have to store it in a variable. So this is the role of the variable in any programming languages. So in different programming languages, these variables are created in a different way. In most of the programming languages, these variables are firstly created, then the values assigned. But this is slightly different in Python, where the variables are created when you're assigning the value. Let's see this with an example. For example, you are having a name called David, and you are going to store this name value, which is David, into a variable name called person name or name, just a name, right? So let's create a variable. So you are giving the name of the variable, which is name equal David. Why we are giving the name David within this quotation marks? Because it's a text value. So this value will be treated as a text value or string. So let's call it as string, which is the most commonly used term in programming languages. Right. So you have created your first variable. Let's create another variable. Like you have a variable called x, which is storing a value 100, the numeric value 100. So let's create x. The x is the name of the variable and the value is 100. Let's see how we can use these variables. So let's print these variables and we'll see what are the values displayed when you are printing these variables. So let's print the name first. So here you can see that we are giving the variable names. You don't need to give it within the text value or within the quotation marks, as it is a variable name, right? Let's run this code. Great. So you can see that the name is printed. Let's try this out for variable x. Great. You can see that 100 is getting printed. So now you're familiar that how to create the variables in Python. So first you have to give the variable name, then equal symbol, and the value that you are assigning to this particular variable. You can even create a variable with an empty string, like for example, y is equal to an empty string. We are going to learn about the different types of different data types and how to create the variables for these different data types in our upcoming sessions. But now you just focus on how you are creating the variables and assigning the value, right? So this is the first portion of this session. And the second portion is what we are going to look at is what are the norms we have when we are creating the variables, right? So let's see this, right? So here I have noted down the variable names. So there are different norms that you have to follow when you are creating the variable names. So the first and second, the conditions are the variable names must start with a letter or underscore, and it cannot start with a number. Let's test these conditions. As a first thing, I'm going to start with a variable, with a letter, okay, which is n is a letter, and I'm going to assign it as David, right? Let's run this. Okay, let's print this name David. Okay, David is printed, and there's no issue when we have a variable started with a letter. Variable name started with a letter. Let's see this starting with an underscore. So name equal underscore name equal David. And let's print this underscore name variable. Yeah, there's no issue. So we can start a variable name with underscore as well. And the second condition is that the variable cannot start with a number. Let's try this out. Number 2 name equal David, and I'm going to print this. Yep. Here you can see that invalid syntax exception is captured. So it means that you cannot start a variable name with a numeric value at the beginning, right? And the third condition is that variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores, which is A to Z values, 0 to 9, and underscore. So in this particular variable, let me give a non-alphanumeric value, which may be a question mark. And let's run this code. Yeah, again an invalid syntax issue. So you cannot have an non-alphanumeric value. The fourth condition is that variable names are case sensitive. The age and the age in capital letters are three different variables. So you can see there are three different names which are in different cases, and these different cases are treated as different variables in Python. Let's try this same example. Let's say age is equal 10, age is equal 15, age is equal 60. So if we print one of these, let's say age with capital letters, yes. So here it is printing age 60 years old. It means that these different variables with the different cases are treated as different uh, variables. Since the variable names with the different variables. Right. So this is what we are learning today. Please go through this again and again and understand the logic and the norms to create these variables. And this is the end of this session, and let's see in another video tutorial. Thank you.